Welcome to session 4. In this lesson, we will be discussing evaluation, which, if you'll recall, is part of evidence-based practice, step number 5. So really, at this point in your project, in terms of what we're discussing, we're transitioning from application, so from what we learned about last week in terms of the action plan, to evaluation. So we're moving from step 4 to step 5. So let's discuss. Most of you I know, are graduating in May, so you're probably thinking a lot of things about post-graduation. You might be really concerned about finishing this class and the rest of your coursework between now and then and not really thinking about graduation. You might be thinking about some of the things you have to do after graduation, such as take the CSW exam. You might just be thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm about to be on the job market. I need to find a job. So let's consider for a moment post-graduation. How do you see yourself as a social worker? What role do you see yourself taking? Do you see yourself as an evidence-based practitioner? Do you see yourself being in a role where you would do program evaluation? Do you see yourself as the director of a nonprofit? Or do you see yourself as a clinical supervisor? If you checked yes to any of these, then you need to know how to evaluate, because that's going to be a key component to any of these roles that you could assume as a master level social worker in the field. In Blackboard, there's a link to the following website. It's the link directly underneath this video. Pause the video, go to the website listed in the link. Then I want you to scroll down to the section that says some major types of program evaluation. And I want you to stop when you get to analyzing and interpreting information. So on the page link that you click on, if you just click on the actual major types of program evaluation when you see in the sections, that's going to take you directly to that part of the website. And what I wanted you to take from this is, while we do evaluation, what are the different types of program evaluation, and what are some of the methods that we use, and how to select the appropriate methods for evaluation. So now that you've read that, let's talk a little bit about a couple of different ways we can process evaluation in terms of what we've already learned for this class. So remember, in terms of our logic model from last semester that we spent some time discussing, you have inputs, we have outputs, we have our outcomes, we have a number of different assumptions and external factors that we also talk about in terms of this. And evaluation can actually be focused on two different things. So it could be focused on the outputs, so your process, or it could be focused on the outcomes, which is the impact. So in terms of outputs versus outcomes, in terms of that process, the outputs that we could discuss, we could talk about inputs, we could talk about activities, and we could talk about your actual output, your products. And then we also, in terms of outcomes, talk about the short-term effects and outcomes. We talk about the intermediate effects or outcomes, and we talk about the long-term effects or the outcomes. So you must consider your presentation and subsequent action planning steps. What are these going to look like? What makes sense in terms of your project thus far? And also, you must keep in mind this whole time when you're thinking about evaluation, what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals for doing so? So let's conceptualize your upcoming presentation and action plan as attempts to train the agency on new ways to enhance their current practice. So let's focus more on in terms of an outcome evaluation perspective. So in terms of doing this, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Kirkpatrick model of training evaluation. So I think this is going to really help you conceptualize what you need to do in terms of your evidence-based practice project and kind of give you a model for how you could go about doing this. So this gives you really a way to think about what you're attempting to achieve with your presentation and the subsequent action planning steps. So it's going to help you also identify what types of outcomes you're looking to obtain with your project. So The Kirkpatrick model of training evaluation starts with the reactions and satisfactions. So it's really looking at the effective reactions and how they predict attitude change, which in turn predict knowledge gain and better training transfer. So if individuals are not satisfied with the content of the training or the method of delivery, then the learning and subsequent behavior change that you're looking for in terms of what you've trained them on is very unlikely to happen. So you must measure if individuals are satisfied with the training, and this must happen at first at the very base level. So then we have learning, which are the gains in knowledge and skill which affect transfer of skills to the job. So in terms of looking at this, you could measure perceptions of learning or actual learning, so a knowledge-based test. You could develop training in that respect based on you could develop questions actually based on the training content in order to measure knowledge or measure learning. So one option that I've done before is you could consider using case examples with questions that require application of knowledge. So not just a standard knowledge test question. In this respect, it would be more of like what you're talking about probably in your practice classes, or if you've even looked at any of the CSW material. There could be one clear correct answer and at least 3 incorrect answers. It could have one distractor answer, so an item that's close to the right answer but not the correct one. And then you could also have some answers that or some questions that could have more than one correct answer. So the response options could be both A and B or C or all of the above. So this really helps you show how the individual learned and retained the material. Then we have transfer of skills, and this is the extent to which practice behaviors have been enhanced or changed. So you can have the individuals that you're training as part of this list their practice behaviors, or you could have them rate the extent to which each skill has been used from not very much at all or not very likely to use to I've completely mastered this particular skill. And then ultimately, we're looking at organizational impact. So how are we in terms of all of these factors impacting the agency? Do we have improved quality? Do we have greater efficiency? If you're looking at, for example, training the individuals at the agency to do a particular type of therapeutic modality, how is that impacting the agency overall? These are all things that you have to look at in terms of the Kirkpatrick model of training. So really what this model is suggesting is that training should first create satisfied trainees. Then you should teach your trainees something, followed by helping them put it into practice for the ultimate impact, which is organizational change. So what you can do for this, now this particular model, I guess I should step back and say, is used in a number of different contexts. What I've used it for is, I've implemented a particular training at the agency level for all of the individuals at the agency. And then in terms of using this model, I have actually went through all of these steps and measured each one from reaction, satisfaction, to learning, to transfer of skills, and then with the hope that this would cause organizational change. However, for what you should think about this for your evidence-based practice project is you should think of your whole action plan, all of those steps, as one big training. So in terms of this, in terms of what you're looking at for your evaluation plan, the expectations for your project is minimally your evaluation plan must include the evaluation of your presentation using the immediate post-presentation form provided on Blackboard. So you'll be able to find these in this course session. I'm going to have a folder set up where you'll see all of the documents that you need to know that are needed for the evaluation piece of your project. You also must evaluate the impact of all of your action plan efforts. So you need to use the post-action plan implementation interview and survey. Also, once again, I'm going to be providing that on Blackboard. Then you should also include a few other brief evaluation activities to address the unique goals of your evidence-based practice project. And so that's going to look different for everyone. And if you're having some questions about this when you get to this point, when you start really fleshing out your evaluation plan, talk to me and we can discuss what's going on with your project and what will be the best way to evaluate that particular goal that you're looking for. So I also want to make it clear that with approval from me, you may also add or subtract questions. You can take away scales or add scales or items to any of these tools, evaluation tools that I'm providing you with, so that you can address the unique goals of your evidence-based practice project. So keep that in mind. You don't have to just use the standard form. You can alter it, but make sure you talk to me first so we can discuss why this makes sense for you and for your project. So now I want you to pause the video, and in this particular step in Blackboard you'll see that there is video question number 1. It's a link, and that's actually going to open up what we call a Padlet where you can answer the question that is listed at the top of that website. And you actually don't have to leave Blackboard in order to answer this. If you just click directly into the little module that I have listed there that says video question number 1, you'll be able to answer that. Now once you've done that, I want you to pause the video once again and go into video question number 2 that's listed and answer that one now as well. So keep in mind when designing your evaluation plan, you must think about the aim. What aim do you hope to achieve? What is your outcomes of your planned activities? Because you really need to think about why you are doing what you're doing and be very deliberate with the activities that you're designing. So keep this in mind as you're thinking about even your action plan. What am I going to be doing in terms of evaluation? Please make sure to use the required surveys, and once again you may want to modify by adding or subtracting items, but please discuss this with me first. So in the end, I want to make it clear that the expectations of the evaluation piece is that you're going to personalize the items on the surveys. You're going to develop other brief program evaluation measures, and you're going to use brief practice evaluation techniques if possible. Now this concludes my brief overview on evaluation. There's a number of different PowerPoints that I have listed here in the lessons part that go over different types of tools. So make sure that you're opening all of those and paying close attention to what I have listed there. And if you have other questions, please let me know. Thanks and have a great week.